Alright guys, today I'm going to do the trade recap going over all the trades I took today. And today was a pretty tough day, I can't even lie. I think I went 3 for 6 today, or I took some losers. So I mean obviously the winners are bigger than the losers, and that's how most of the trades should be. You should always have good risk to reward in the trades you take, and that's kind of the way you could do really well in this market. When you have good RR and good risk to reward, you tend to do really well. So in the morning, right? What do I notice? We had these like relative equal highs from like 983, and NQ is approaching a very dangerous, or not dangerous, but a very strong level at 30k. This is an important psych level. So 30k being a psychological number, this is a strong level, and if NQ didn't claim this level, I was going to be bearish for today. Now, NQ failed to claim the level in the morning. Come over to ES as well. If I look back, ES took out its previous day high, right? So if we look back from the 9:30 open, same thing, literally same thing played on ES, right? It was basically a pattern from yesterday. We took out the previous day high, and the same exact thing that happened yesterday happened again today. So you had this high, this high right here got taken out, and this was your previous day high. And then look, we swept out the previous day high in the morning on ES, and then we still had these draws in liquidity to the lows. So we still had these lows down here. So Asia low and London low, and then we swept it later in the day. So ES moved from liquidity to liquidity. So we went from the highs, and I went from London low and Asia high, but we never took out the Asia low, and NQ didn't even take out anything to begin with. So this was a key thing that played out for my trades in the morning when I took shorts off open, was off of the fact that I saw we swept previous day high, and NQ lost the 30k level. We couldn't even claim it as support, so I was bearish. So we get the flush down. Now I'm looking at skylit, and what do I see like in the morning? So what I see is that we took out the previous day high, as you can see here on SPY, and everything is pointing down. So like what I mean by that is that I saw off the bat that SPY and QQQ were pointed down. So I was kind of having more of a bearish thesis, saying, okay, if these nodes are pointing down, then I'm not gonna expect like this SPX upside to get hit just because those nodes were pointing down on both SPY and QQQ. So I was like, all right, well, NQ just lost his major level, and if there was any chance SPX hit his king node up here at the beginning, then we would claim this as support and keep going. So as soon as I saw we couldn't hold 30k, that's when I took shorts back down, and I think I took this like all the way just down here, and then like I ended up getting out in this range. So in the morning we see the IB low gets set. Let me just turn off the Trinity actually, so there's more space on my charts. And then now session levels also got added too, so you have all your session levels from how I normally use the IBs and everything from my indicator. So we got all of this, the previous day high stuff, the IB 30, the high and the low. So normally the way I like to use the IB highs, I said in the video, is I normally like to draw a fib from the IB high to the IB low. So something like this. I need to turn off the magnet because it's locking on. So something like this, and I'm gonna expect a retracement to the golden zone in later in the day and end up finding resistance at it. So if we look at all the IBs from today, we had this retracement in this zone right here, and from the IB high here on SPY, mark out all the way up here, down to these lows. Where is it? It's the IB low. So we got that 618 golden zone, and QQQ being kind of like my main leader. So like where I was looking or had the most confirmation on. And then this is the IB low. So from IB high to IB low, and we could see that QQQ ended up coming into its came up to the 618. This is where I took my first short, and then I also shorted the 50% and the 50% here. So like those were my 3 green trades for today, and I had the alignment across the board. So what do I see when I see all these IBs getting added now? And I'm also probably I'm gonna ask the developer actually if they can make it so the fib actually automatically gets drawn if you want to display from IB low, IB high, something like that. But so what do I see like in the morning when I took my first short? So on NQ, right? If I look over the NQ chart, after the IB gets set here, this is how I pretty much play the IB. So after the high and the low gets set, I'm expecting if the low gets set first and price is closer to the low, that we normally set the low and then we'll get a reversal back to the golden zone. So it's either gonna be like the 618, the 50%, or the deep retracement zone, and price will see a V-band reversal back there and break the lows. So what I saw in the morning was that all right, we pulled back to the 618 here at 1025. So if I look at 1025, right, this ends up becoming a dark pool. So this is a dark pool on SPX, and it also is a dark pool here on SPY, and it also is the weekly open as well. So we have those levels in mind. So it was also the weekly open, which is another strong liquidity level, and then QQQ rejecting the 618. So once I took this, we actually had like a major dump on. We had literally like a news candle back in the golden zone, and I was pretty much playing a deflection off of a small overshoot of the SPX King node and the SPY that these nodes were going to hold as resistance, and we would sweep liquidity, come higher, and then reverse down lower. So this is pretty much what I was looking at for the day. And if you add like, I'm gonna start posting a lot on Oracle Index because like I like to post my thought process so that people could actually look back and see what we're looking at throughout the day. So I said I'm watching like this golden zone on Qs, which aligned with the king node over here, which was this negative Barney around the 618, and we ended up seeing that pullback right there, just like exactly how I wanted. So a pullback down to that zone, and we rejected the golden zone here on Qs. So that was pretty nice to see. And then we also reconfirmed back at the 618 where you could actually see I played the deflection of these king nodes here on SPY and on SPX with the dark pools here as well. And I also pointed out here where ES took out its major draws in liquidity with that previous day high. Then it also took out the London and Asia high. And all of this is posted in Oracle Index so you could go and take a look. So we have all these high liquidity levels getting taken out in ES. And then like they did it again where we got the 50% retracement again with the SPY and the SPX King node. So that was pretty nice to see, and that's kind of where the fib comes in handy with the zones and with the levels because it gives us what's called structure. It gives us a structural standpoint on these trades, and it makes them have more of a valid reason to hold nice support to it. Because if you look at this, right, this golden zone is considered the best discount zone to enter, and you could get your best fill in the zone. So once we get a pullback in the zone, we normally see a reversal from it. So we got to pull back here to the 50%. Then we got to pull back here at this fib. But this is where I played it off of the NQ and QQQ golden zone. Then let's see, later in the day, kind of just chopped around. So like we just chopped, we chopped, and then towards the end of the day. So when I took the second short here at 1039, this is also I believe off the 50%, 1039 right here. So this is the 50% fib again where I shorted it back down, and we ended up coming back to the IB low again, and then we bounced the dark pools back up, and then we bounced the dark pools perfectly on that news candle, which is pretty nice to see. And then later in the day, like these ceilings were here at SPY and SPX, but they got tested so many times that I was really looking to play the first deflection off of them. So that's why I didn't play it. Then later in the day, once we made up to the 50% here on SPX, we got to the discount zone here on SPY, and we got to the 50% on QQQ. That's when I was looking to short. And something to note is that look at this double top, right? See this double top on NQ right here? Where we short the 50%. We got a strong double top on NQ. You had the dark pools also as like a small conviction, and also just the fib levels. And then also something like I'll post out here is that I was saying how they're like these nodes, I'm not expecting a bounce off of them just because there was no more upside. So I said a little update here, we have a change in the maps, it's still not user friendly. And the king node floors are here, and then SPY like developed the Pika cloud. So like I couldn't look for shorts yet until we got a reshuffle. Then we see later in the day, you see how the maps changed a lot. There was no more upside, only the downside nodes from these king nodes. And then we see like later in the day that 775 ends up fading off. So if we go back here on the Atlas, 775 up here faded off and they shifted it down. And then once we got like the dump back down here, um, the node was down here. So this node was losing exposure, and that's when we hit all these levels and these structural levels with that double top there in NQ/QQ. So like that's where I took my trades. I ended up did gain like chopped up in this chop. I tried to attempt a short here and like I ended up getting stopped out. And then I tried to take like a long somewhere at these lows. It was like somewhere here and I ended up getting stopped out. But like that's what I saw for the day and everything. And it's kind of why I like drawing fibs from like the highs and the lows. Also on NQ, where did I draw this fib? There was a fib I drew towards the end of the day. I don't know if it was this. No, not this one. It was. I think it was from these swing high to swing low area. So yeah, I was kind of looking for this maximum area. So like this golden zone to hold, and I ended up trying to short in here. Like one time I got stopped out, and then I ended up shorting once we hit like the original 50% from the original IB range, which was pretty nice to see. And then like if you mark the one from like the session high all the way to like the session low, you could also see, believe it or not, it's kind of crazy, no? Session high, session low. He had the 618 right there too. So that's kind of how like I was shorting this range, just because I knew price was gonna reverse, and it was only a matter of when to have to reshuffle and point down, and then we ended up getting like the IB break of the lows. But that's pretty much what I saw for today. Also, like I was looking side by side of SMH and Nvidia. You'll see over here actually when I took that short, Nvidia hit the ceiling, right? So I had that conviction that all right, Nvidia's tapping out. Over here at Mock, I tried like to take calls as well because I saw Nvidia had the strong floor and we were testing back the strong pivot level. But we ended up later in the day we didn't even like I didn't get the pump I wanted. So that was that, and then SMH had this what? SMH only had this node down here. So like when I tried to long it, I tried to use a conviction that SMH had like a floor here, and then same with the end of the day, the SMH had the floor. But then this rug ended up playing out a little bit. So like that's what I saw throughout the day. Hopefully like this recap helps. Like this is why I like to use like fibs in general, because like you could see how much alignment you'd have structurally with these trades. Like if you drew the whole thing, you had that 618 right there. You could have just waited patiently for it to get hit, or like just like how I marked my fib over here. This was also just an extreme discount area. It's like we set a reaction, reaction, like reaction, and just kept ping ponging back and forth, and then we finally got our move down. So yeah, all right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Do let me know if you have any questions. Let me know like how I could help out. Always trying to help 1% better every day. See you guys.